Hello, 5th grade teachers. This video overview of social studies has been created to help you understand what the 5th grade year of social studies looks like. Throughout the video, I will stay focused on the organizing concepts and big idea concepts that are elevated within these units. In addition, due to organizing concepts being used to organize student learning goals within planning templates, I'll offer a brief description of the organizing concepts and highlight some general ideas related to what students will be doing and thinking about to arrive at the unit's understandings. As always, refer to planning templates for greater specificity. On this slide, you see the titles of units, titles that elevate a year of learning that is primarily focused on early American history. Below titles are the lengths of units. If you add up all of the low-end days, you'll see that this is equal to 80% of the student contact days in a year. If you add up the high-end days, you'll see that this is equal to 100% of the student contact days in a year. This flexibility was established to allow for reteaching when necessary, or possibly exploring topics with greater depth. It honors the disruptions that might happen during a school year and the different teachers and learners we have in all of our classrooms. The first unit of the year is Changing Face of North America, Emergence of a New World Society. For years, teachers may have known this unit as Colonial America, but that title represents a Eurocentric perspective. In fact, the title of this unit can be very helpful in framing the learning for students, because the arrival of Europeans to an already populated continent caused the Atlantic coast to change significantly. Through this change and the interaction between Europeans, Native Americans, and Africans, a new society emerged and took shape. This unit allows students to begin their studies through the lenses of history and geography. In history, the planning template is organized using the concept of chronology. In addition, history conceptual big ideas are present, those of continuity and change over time, unity and diversity, and historical process. In geography, planning templates highlight the organizing concept of human and physical interaction, with concepts of region and place elevated as big idea concepts. The first organizing concept is chronology, a history concept. Chronological thinking is at the heart of historical thinking. Students should learn about people, events, and ideas, and arrange them chronologically, using timelines as tools for learning. Upon arranging people, events, and ideas chronologically, students are able to think historically and can begin to recognize how things have continued to stay the same or change over time. Students can also begin to predict why these patterns may have existed within the context of an emerging American nation. As part of this learning, students break apart key themes of the era. Students will examine the development of economics over time, which includes barter and trade, trades within communities, mercantilism, and the eventual participation in global trade. They'll also examine the establishment of social and political ideals, which includes social structures of the era, religious ideas of the Great Awakening, scientific ideas of the Enlightenment, and ideas related to freedom of speech, press, and the ability to vote for leaders. To arrive at this concept's understandings, students will determine critical attributes of timelines and create timelines. They'll use primary and secondary sources revealing multiple perspectives to understand social, political, and economic development, and they'll examine and analyze how and why social, political, and economic institutions developed and changed over time. The other organizing concept in this unit, human and physical interaction, is a geography concept. The ideas within this concept allow students to think about people and how they interact with the physical landscape. Sometimes people use the land and local physical systems in particular ways. At other times, the local physical landscape influences people, especially in situations where they might settle, or how they determine when and how they're going to trade with each other. When we look at colonies within regions, it's easy to recognize their differences. What's most important is to help students identify how different places cause life to look different. To learn about this concept's understandings, students will analyze resources and consider relationships and connections between variables such as resource use, access to resources, trade patterns, migration patterns, and the development of local and regional communities. Students will also analyze how physical features influence migration patterns, trade patterns, and the development of social, political, and economic institutions. The second unit of the year, the American Revolution, is focused entirely on history concepts. Planning templates use chronology and historical process to communicate student learning goals. In addition, history big idea concepts of continuity and change over time, unity and diversity, and perspective are connected to student learning. Again, students address the concept of chronology, which was developed in the year's first unit. The American Revolution includes significant events, people, interactions, and new ideas in a conflict that eventually led to independence for the colonies. Through organizing these elements onto timelines, students are able to identify the structure of events unfolding over time, the actions and intentions of those who were there, and the connections over time that allow students to think about causes and effects. To arrive at this concept's understandings, students will analyze how cooperation and conflict among people contributes to political, economic, and social division. They'll also use cause and effect relationships to analyze how interactions, events, and ideas impacted various political, social, economic, and military developments. The second organizing concept, historical process, helps to guide students towards more focused practice of historical thinking. While we are supporting students in learning history, our goal is to help students think like historians and use processes that historians use in their daily practice. For example, historians use a variety of sources and perspectives to develop complex historical understanding. In this process, students construct history by using each new source to understand the stories of history with increasing complexity. Reading a textbook or a video retelling of events is a secondary source, and these sources were created by historians who analyzed primary sources. Primary sources are the documents, images, journals, and historical pieces of evidence that are used to make sense of history. They are the actual pieces of history. Every time a student explores another perspective or an additional primary source, the story becomes more layered and more complex. History is not a single strand or a single story as told in a textbook. History is the fabric of perspectives and stories woven together through the historical process. As students explore this concept, they will independently analyze cartoons, artifacts, artwork, charts, and graphs, and write conclusion statements. And students will use primary and secondary sources to analyze interactions from multiple perspectives, recognize elements of cooperation and conflict, and evaluate their impact within historical context. The third unit of the year is focused on civics concepts. The planning templates use three organizing concepts: purpose of government, structure and function of government, and citizenship. In addition, four civics big idea concepts help students to make sense of their learning. Those are government, power and authority, individual rights versus common good, and democracy. Purpose of government exposes students to the question of why do we have government? In context, the people of our new society and nation explored this idea for a long time. They gained a sense of past ideas, and those past ideas influenced the citizens' and founders' beliefs about government. Eventually, our nation's founders came together and answered the question, why do we have government? They established how these ideas would play out, limiting the power of government, including the voice and perspective of citizens, and penned these ideas within the United States Constitution. To arrive at this concept's understandings, students will analyze how past situations and experiences influence formation of the United States constitutional government. Students will also identify and explain principles of American democracy and recognize how the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights reflect and preserve these principles. The second concept in this unit allows students to examine the structure and function of government. When looking at the structure of government, students gain a sense of each branch of government, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. When considering how government functions, students think about the processes that allow the branches of government to check each other so there is proper balance and no branch has too much authority or power. Students come to understand that, within our government, power and responsibilities are divided and shared. These same ideas are also applied through the lens of federalism, helping students to know the decisions that national, state, and local governments make. To arrive at this concept's understandings, students will use the U.S. Constitution to identify where and how the structure and function of branches within our federal government are defined. They'll analyze how decisions of the federal government affect citizens at the state and local levels, and students will use scenarios and real-life examples to recognize the unique roles within each branch of government and the complexity of relationships between the branches. The third organizing is citizenship. This concept involves understanding the legal rights which the Constitution promises to citizens. Students also learn that individuals and groups share different beliefs about civic ideals within a democratic society, and that the actions of citizens illustrate differing and conflicting perspectives about our nation's civic ideals. To arrive at this concept's understandings, students will analyze the U.S. Constitution to recognize individual rights protected in the Bill of Rights and consider how sources and experiences led to the establishment of the Bill of Rights. Students will also relate individual and group actions to civic ideals. The last unit of the year, Financial Institutions, Products and Services, is focused on economics concepts. The organizing concept is opportunity cost, while additional big idea concepts of cost and choice and scarcity exist. A significant portion of this unit's learning goals are connected to the addition of personal financial literacy learning goals within Colorado's academic standards. The organizing concept of opportunity cost invites students to consider if and how to use the products and services that financial institutions offer to help people. To arrive at this concept's understandings, students will compare and contrast financial institutions and their products or services, and students will discuss how different governmental activities can affect financial institutions and the economy at the local, state, and national level. Please refer to the Stage 1 planning templates for greater specificity about the desired results for student learning within each unit of study. In addition, refer to Stage 2 and 3 supports for assessment examples and resources that are aligned to these units of study, knowing that supports will continue to develop over time.